Namaste. Welcome to the Santosha Spirit podcast. For those of you new here, my name is Rachel. I'm a certified trauma-sensitive yoga teacher and Reiki master with an online community of over 25,000 on YouTube. I love making spiritual practices accessible and practical so they provide a safe space for you to come home to your true self and allow you to live a more free, authentic, and fulfilling life. If you prefer to learn by reading, you can find the transcript for this audio lecture in the description box below. Today we're talking about healing and what it means to heal. And this is a question I get asked a lot. Is healing actually possible after being chronically ill for so long? Is it possible to heal after years of chronic pain? Is it possible after surviving trauma and living with PTSD? And I think before we can actually answer this question, we need to explore what healing actually means to us. Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what does healing mean to us personally? I know that for me, I had this very fairy tale idea of health and healing when I was at the beginning of my journey. Like, healing was a finish line I could one day cross and then never have another health issue again. I've been living with health problems on and off my entire life, literally since birth. But they got especially bad in 2011 when they really started to impact my day-to-day life. And I've collected a laundry list of diagnoses since then because you can't just have one. I kept thinking that it would get better, that the next doctor would be able to fix me for good. And although my health has improved a lot, I've never found my magic pill, so to speak. I think I was kind of holding on to this fairy tale idea of healing as a sort of life raft to help me get through the daily struggles of living with chronic illness, PTSD, and chronic pain, because this shit is hard. It's mentally, emotionally, and physically draining. Taking care of yourself when you're chronically ill is honestly exhausting. Chronically ill bodies are very high maintenance. I require a very high level of attention and self-care in order to be even somewhat functional. And I'm vigilant about my health because I want to avoid adding lifestyle illnesses on top of what I'm already dealing with. And it's tiring. If I'm being completely honest, it's like having caregiver burnout, except I'm the one I'm taking care of. So part of the fantasy is just genuinely wanting to feel better because living with all of these symptoms is awful. Let's be real, okay? It's awful. And it makes sense to want to be done with all of that. Literally nobody wants to live like this. But I think part of me has been holding on to that fantasy of being completely healed and healthy one day because then I wouldn't have to take care of myself anymore. Taking care of my chronically ill body is exhausting. It feels like a full-time job, and it's hard. There are no days off, and if I could just cross that finish line, I could be done with all of the supplements and special diets and countless doctor appointments. I wouldn't have to micromanage my schedule to make sure I'm budgeting my energy well enough to avoid a crash after I do something. I could actually live my life without this ball and chain around my ankle. But I have been forever changed by these experiences, mentally, physically, and emotionally. I have survived trauma and abuse. I've survived multiple surgeries and years of chronic illness and chronic pain. And I think a part of healing for me has been grieving the fantasy that someday things will go back to the way they were before things got so bad. Because they won't. They can't. After we break a bone, the body can heal. It can stitch itself back together, but it will always remember that injury. The way that the bone reforms will be a little different than what it was before the injury. It might ache on rainy days. Healing is possible, but it won't erase what happened. So I think step one is really allowing yourself to fully grieve the life you thought you were going to have. Even if you're someone who's had chronic illness all your life, It's okay to feel angry about that and to mourn that loss of potential. And it will come in waves. I'm still grieving. Even after all this time, I'm still grieving all of the things I've had to miss out on because of my health. I'm still learning how to exist as this person who is chronically ill and disabled, this person who has been through trauma and abuse, and accepting and integrating this new identity, which is hard to do, especially in a society that is so rife with ableism. And I think that ableism is actually another huge influence for this perfect health fantasy. It's not just about wanting to be free of our chronic symptoms. It's not just the self-care burnout. It's also that being chronically ill comes with a lot of baggage and judgment that none of us asked for. It comes with judgment from others and also the internalized judgment we have for ourselves. It's not okay to be disabled in our society. So it would be a lot easier if it all just went away. I think wellness is in part about accepting where you are and having the tools you need to return yourself back to baseline whenever your health gets thrown out of balance. As a person living with chronic illness, chronic pain, trauma, we have to accept that things have changed and redefine what that baseline is. And I think that's how I personally define health. It's that ability to return to a baseline state of wellness over and over again. There will be times when that baseline moves up and times when it's a little lower, and everyone's baseline will look a little different. But by that definition, you can absolutely find and experience healing even if you're living with chronic pain or chronic illness that's expected to be lifelong. Everyone, even average, healthy people, needs to be mindful of their health. All bodies require care and maintenance, and there is no finish line. It doesn't exist. Health is not a destination. It's an ongoing journey for all of us. So I can accept that I'm high maintenance and decide that I'm worth the effort it takes to care for myself. I can accept that I will experience hills and valleys throughout my life as it comes to my health, not just because I'm chronically ill, but because I am a human and this is a part of life. And by this definition of healing, I have and will experience it many, many times. Now I'd love to hear from you. How do you personally define healing? Can you relate to that feeling of self-caretaker burnout? Let me know, and I'll talk to you again really soon.